A few years ago, Gerald and I made a multi-day trip into the Moose River area in Mt Robson Provincial Park. We went there, I think, in June of 2023, just as a day trip to kind of do a recon, see what it was like. And then we went back later that summer, did a multi-day trip up into the Resplendent Valley, up to the Moose where it connects with the Great Divide Trail. And this video, I thought, there's a number of things I learned from that trip, and I'm going to do a series of these videos from different trips that I've made, talking about the things that I learned from that multi-day trip. So concerning the Moose River, there's about 5 or 6 different things that I came across that I found that I would change, which I did change, and we're going to hit those 5 things right here. So let's start with number 1. Okay, number 1 is powering off your electronics overnight. So you can see here, cell phone just powered off. This is especially important in the winter time. It's going to save some battery time on your phone. You might be using your phone for navigation. You might want to be taking pictures. Maybe you'll need it for emergency contact if you're using your phone through your InReach device or whatever your satellite beacon is. Also, you can put your phone inside of your sleeping bag. You'll see here with this sleeping bag, many of them do have a little zippered area that you can put your phone in, especially important in the winter time. This way it keeps that battery from totally freezing up and getting damaged. So power off your phone at night time when you're going to bed. Put it in that pocket in your sleeping bag. That way you're not kind of rolling all over it either. Zip it up. It stays nice and warm from your body heat, and that's number 1. It'll save you from having to charge up your phone unnecessarily, at least a few extra percent, maybe up to 5%, maybe as low as like 1 or 2%, but it's definitely worth it. Okay, number 2, bring the right tent stakes. You can see here I have there's a shepherd hook right there. Beside it, it's like some kind of a J 90-degree angle tent stake. I got that one with my Durston X-Mid 2 years ago. That other small red one is the MSR Groundhog Mini, and the one beside it, the long red one, is the regular MSR Groundhog stake. And then the black one is a snow tent stake. So you can see the difference in the sizes here. The black one is a snow stake. It's the largest one. You can see there how big they are compared to my hand. And what's important about picking the right stake, especially for a trekking pole tent like the Durston X-Mid series tents, is usually you want, I would say, longer stakes. You probably don't want to get the MSR Groundhog Minis. You definitely want just at least the regular MSR Groundhog or larger, because it's very important to stake out your trekking pole tent. That's the key thing to keep it stable and intact with those trekking poles in there. So, and extra guy outlines and whatnot. So definitely pick the right stakes. If you're doing wintertime camping, you definitely want to go for those snow stakes. You'll see different clips that I show how critical it is. Like, any regular tent stakes are not going to work for wintertime. Even if you have no snow, the ground is usually frozen. It's very hard to get them in. You definitely want to go with those snow stakes. You can put rocks on them if you have to. They're fairly large and a lot of surface area to at least, you can put a large rock on it. It'll hold. You can dig them into sand, dig them into snow, and just have the right stakes. So those shepherd hooks in general, they don't work too well, especially with the trekking pole tent. The smaller stakes like the mini groundhog don't work well, and I hope the point comes across. So that's point number 2. All right, so tip number 3 is set up your campsite inside of sheltered areas. You want trees around you, brush around you. If possible, you don't want to be right beside the brush or the trees so that animals don't kind of sneak up right beside your tent, maybe a couple feet away, but still you want surrounding around you trees. You'll see how we're here in the open plains right beside the Resplendent Creek, and we ended up having some issues there. Didn't use the right stakes, and so when we headed up to the waterfall, it was a bluebird day, it was beautiful, but then we got to the waterfall and turned around and started thundering. And when I got back to camp, you'll see in a video clip there, my tent was partially collapsed. Anyways, I kind of set it back up, but I didn't have the proper stakes, but also we didn't pick a great spot. And you will see weather pattern rolled in. You'll see a kind of a dust cloud and dark clouds coming from the south east, and boy did that storm hit us. You'll see as we're sitting in our Durston tents, hands on both poles, kind of grabbing the poles, grabbing the tent so it wouldn't blow away, and it was just flapping like crazy winds. And that was our first multi-day trip that we even really tested these Durston tents. We didn't have lots of camping experience, but all these things converged on us. So yeah, pick a spot that's sheltered, so when that wind comes, some of the trees will take the brunt of it, some of the brush will take the brunt of it, but you don't want to be right beside trees and stuff so that animals don't sneak up on you. There's like a little bit of a buffer. You don't want brush rubbing against your tent at nighttime if it's windy. Also, you don't want maybe branches to come crashing down on you, or in wintertime, snow to come crashing down on you. So just a thought, find yourself a place that's not exposed to the full brunt of the elements, and that's tip number 3. Sorry. Okay, tip number 4. Understand water depth and time of day and how conditions that affect it. So understand water levels, water depth. This is a very important one to understand in the backcountry. On our multi-day trip in the Moose River, went up the Resplendent Valley. The day that we went to check out that waterfall that was coming out of the, I can't remember, starts with the letter R, big glacier up on near the Mt Robson area. Anyways, we went up there, we crossed some water crossings multiple times, and we had kind of read about this, and it was all theory in our heads, but this was my first real multi-day camping trip. And so we crossed some creeks, and of course, as the day progressed, thunderstorms came in, and even just the heat of the day, melting glaciers up top, and the flow of the creek really rose at least a couple feet.
And there it is.
And when we went to cross back over, heading back to camp, we could not cross at the area where we had come up. Water was just too deep. There were rocks that we stepped on crossing over the creek, and those rocks were 2 feet under the water, and the creek was flowing pretty fast. So we ended up going upstream and found a log that was just starting to be completely submerged underwater, and kind of sketchily crossed over that as this thunderstorm was kind of coming and going, and made it back to camp. And we had learned in other trips after that as well, but the Moose River multi-day, the first trip, was really where this became real to us. So understand that glaciers melt, so there'll creeks and rivers that flow from them will be typically at their lowest point early in the morning when things are colder, and as the day progresses after lunch, 1-2 p.m., they're going to be probably at their highest levels. Or another thing is during a rain event, which we had both of those things. We had a hot day where the glacier was melting up top, and we also had that thunderstorm where our tents were kind of almost blowing down the plains, and it all added up to raising those creek levels pretty deep. So be prepared for that, have backup plans, understand how you're going to make it back, and don't get yourself trapped. And if you do, make sure you have the equipment so that you could overnight on the one side so that you could cross over at a safe time the next morning. So just be aware of water levels. And I should also add, on our second multi-day trip out the Moose River, we went into our campsite, which we picked the right site. We learned from the first time we camped at that Haihuna horse camp, but it snowed overnight, and on the way out, it's not a good idea to plan your trip in a transition season where there's fresh snowfall and you're going to do water crossings, because that snow can really cover sections of the water crossing, such as so that you don't know if it's frozen, is it just a layer of snow, is it safe to cross, you can't really see anything, how deep is it, if it's actively snowing out, its visibility is poor. It's just a terrible time to plan for water crossing. So try to avoid water crossings if you have fresh snow that's maybe hiding dangers that would be associated with that. That was a big learning we had on the way out. We got lucky, but things could have went much worse. And tip number 5 is to plan realistic distance goals. What do I mean by that? Basically, I'm saying don't travel too far from day to day. Especially if it's like your first winter camp or your first multi-day trip or whatever. You don't have the experience, you don't know if you can carry 40 pounds for 20 kilometers, or if the weather forecast shows like you're going in where there's no snow but it's going to snow the next day. On our first multi-day trip, I think we did okay. When we went into the Moose, we traveled, I'm going to say maybe 16 kilometers or something like that. It wasn't too bad. It was just sort of the right amount. 40 pounds in your back. First time traveling into this area. Headed up the Moose to the Resplendent Creek and crossed over the creek, and just sort of on the other side, we just set up camp there. We were feeling okay. Everything was good. And you should always make allowances. You can plan, but go by how conditions are, how you're feeling, but don't plan to go too far, because when we came back in November on another multi-day up the same area, we saw that the forecast was going to call for a lot of snow. This is going to be our first real wintertime camp. We said, well, we can make it all the way into the second horse camp. It's like 20 kilometers out there. So we hiked in. It was getting dark. As you see in the video clips, we're crossing over water. And by the time we got there, very easy to get injured. Now you're setting up in the dark because you're pushing so hard to get there. You're cold, you're tired, it's hard to set up. It makes everything not fun. So realistic distances, kind of test yourself beforehand. Maybe carry that 40 pound pack or whatever weight you have around your house, just to see how it feels to do 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers. It's probably a good benchmark. But really plan realistic distances, and plan, even if you do plan to go 20, set up backup plans. Like, okay, at 15, if we feel like this, we'll camp here. Plan ahead as well. Like, make backup plans, but be realistic to the weight you're pulling, the people you're hiking with, so that everybody has a good time. Very important one that we learned on both of our Moose River multi-day trips. So anyways, those are 5 tips that I thought of for the times that we went up the Moose River Valley. It was a lot of fun heading into that area, but those were things that I learned. Hopefully those tips help you. If they do, please add any other tips that you might have in the comments below. Click that like button if it's helped you, and please subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends. Hopefully they can be helped as well, and we all share together and we all benefit. Thanks.
Spectamus cultus dies et obscusi